Is it really good for a child to keep them safe from all danger? I'm Michael Whitehouse. This is the Daily Michael video blog for Tuesday, November 3rd, 2009. If you were to raise a child in a bubble with no pathogens, they couldn't get the flu, they couldn't get measles, they couldn't get any disease, and keep them there until they're 18, any medical professional would tell you that was a terrible idea. Once they get out, they'll be assaulted by disease and probably die from it in fairly short order. And yet, that's still how we raise our children. Not in terms of disease, although many parents probably would if they could, but in terms of life, in terms of the people around them. They are kept safe from everything, and not allowed to do things that might be dangerous. However, that is not natural. That is not how humans are meant to be raised. Let us imagine two tribes of ancient people. In one of them, the children are born knowing fear. They don't need to be taught fear, they know it naturally. And they don't put things in their mouths, and they don't talk to strangers, they don't try new things. And indeed, many of them would survive to adulthood. And the other tribe, the children do not know fear. Like children who are born today. Naturally, they don't know fear. They don't know to be afraid of strangers. They don't know not to put things in their mouths. They don't know not to try to jump across chasms. And they do. And indeed, many of them do not survive to adulthood. However, at some point, these tribes will encounter a calamity of some kind. A famine, a drought, assault of rampaging wildebeests or something. And one of these tribes will do much, much better. The second tribe, of course. Because the first tribe, while they've all survived to adulthood, they've never experimented. They've never pushed their limits. They don't know what they're capable of. They're afraid of everything. And they've never discovered what's the best pointy stick to stick something with. They haven't discovered how far they can jump or how fast they can run. But the second tribe, they know about ingenuity. They've had to rescue their friend off the side of a cliff when he tried to jump off a chasm and failed. They've had to deal with the problems that they've gotten themselves into in their danger. Humans are designed that way. They are designed not to be afraid, to try things, to hopefully survive and succeed. But if not, that's how it works. That's how our species is designed. But nowadays, parents have one, maybe two children, and they're very careful with them. Now, this is good. You should not be reckless with children, just let them play in traffic, certainly. But if you teach them that everything is dangerous, and teach them to be afraid of strangers, and afraid of the world, and afraid of TV, and afraid of companies, and afraid of this, and afraid of that, you raise them defenseless. They never learn how to take care of themselves. They never learn what to really be afraid of and what not to really be afraid of, and they never learn to test their limits. They don't learn how to push it. They don't learn to experience life. They're so afraid of everything that they're so busy avoiding danger that they don't discover opportunities. They don't talk to strangers. Well, by not talking to strangers, they don't run into that person on the street who might have been able to offer them a job or offer them a great learning experience because it was a stranger, and who knows what he really wanted. I've always tried never to be afraid of anything that wasn't actually dangerous. And so I'm learning to fly a plane, and I talk to strangers, and I opened a business, and I've done all kinds of crazy things, and many of those things have worked very, very poorly. But my life has been much, much richer for the experience of exploring things. So if you were the kind of person who was raised to be afraid of things, which many people were, then with each of these things, every time you feel that fear, ask yourself, should I really be afraid? Is this really dangerous? Or was I just taught to be afraid of everything because my parents wanted their job to be easier and not to have to worry if I got into a little bit of trouble? Or is this something that's really dangerous? Because you will find that if you eschew that fear and try things out and do things that maybe are a little bit crazy, your life will be much richer for it. And if you're a parent, don't teach your children to be afraid. Strangers are not dangerous. Yes, there are some people who will abduct children and do terrible things, but they are very, very rare. They always have been, they always will be. In fact, the murder rate is lower in the United States than it has ever been at any time in history, anywhere on Earth. And yet now is when we are telling our children to be afraid of everything. 100 years ago, the murder rate was 10 times as high. And yet, then kids could walk 10 miles to school by themselves. They could go out at dawn and come back at dusk, and no one would ask where they were. They were off doing kid things in the woods or whatever they wanted to do. Now the world is much safer, and we take our kids safety much more seriously, conversely. So if you're a parent, let your kids be kids. Don't teach them to be afraid. Don't teach them strangers are dangerous, and don't teach them the world's a bad place. And you might discover, through their eyes, that maybe the world's a better place than you thought it was. I'm Michael Whitehouse. That'll do.